I think well-being is where you feel fit, both physically and mentally. So you feel well within yourself. Everyone has times where your mood is low and high, but it's actually trying to find a middle way where you can balance and you can cope with the pressures that daily life bring and what lockdown has brought, but you feel positive. Look, with most jobs you do have to travel, although lots of us have been at home for a very long time, which has been quite nice. I think being away from home is not hard for me because my kids are now 25 and 22. When they were younger, it was very difficult when I was having to travel for work. But now it's fine. I like seeing new places, doing new things. I see it as an opportunity to, embrace new ways of doing things. And there is nothing like having that few hours or however many hours you get on an aeroplane where you can't make calls and you can't take calls, but you can watch a good film and have a cheeky glass of wine. I think organisation is really important. So I have a travel wallet, and in it has an amount of cash in almost every currency of every country I've ever been to, plus copies of my passport, my credit cards, case I've lost them, copies of my medical insurance. So I can literally just grab and go. And I always have an overnight bag that's packed with the basic essentials that I need, on the basis that I think I can get anything else I need clothes-wise if I have to go at the last minute when I get somewhere. So I think being organised and having a bag you can just pick up and go is really important. It's really interesting that the phrase work-life balance really didn't exist when I was having my kids 25, 26 years ago. And I think it's so much better that people are mindful of having that balance now. And people understand that if you don't have the balance, you get really burnt out and it can really affect you, and that stress is really very difficult. And a work-life balance to me means, look, sometimes work is more important than home, and sometimes home is more important than work. And being able to assess and balance those two things, particularly when you have a family, is really important. And I think also you have to leave, I tend to have two personalities, my work personality and my home personality. And it's really important that you leave your work personality at the front door when you get home, and probably vice versa. But work-life balance, when I was getting on the career ladder, you literally lived to work. And now it seems to be the other way round. Most people are much more interested in having that balance than being really solely focused on doing all the hours that they need. And I think technology has made a huge difference to the way people work. If you have Wi-Fi, if you have a computer, if you have a phone, you can pretty much work anywhere. I mean, there's obviously certain jobs where you can't, but there's lots of jobs where you can. So work-life balance for me is the fact that you can switch off some parts of your work and enjoy your home life. And you can look forward to work because you've had that break. When my kids were young, I really wouldn't do many overnight stays. It would be really important to me to be there when they woke up in the morning. And I think the problem is with when your kids are younger, that you have really a life at work and a life at home, and you don't really have a life outside that. So there were lots of things that I wouldn't do. I used to get invited to all sorts of things. When I was on the board of Channel 4, we had a film that went up for an Oscar, and I was invited to the Oscars. I just had to say no. There were some things that you have to accept. You can't do everything. And just about managing my work and managing my home was about as much as I could manage. I really think employers do have a responsibility to look out for their workforce. I think it's about communication. When you ask someone, how are you, really listen to the answer, because it's so expected to say, fine, how are you? And I think communication is really important. I think it's really important to help people cope with some of the pressures that they're dealing with, particularly during lockdown, whether that is having mental health ambassadors. We have. Everybody goes on training courses here so we can help other people. We understand the art of listening and helping others. We have wellbeing weeks where people learn about nutrition, healthy living, healthy lifestyle. Everybody went on courses to learn how to work from home and how to get that balance. Because lots of people think working from home means you get a better balance, but for some people you don't. You're literally on the go from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, and showing people how to take breaks, how to switch off, how to get away from the room you're working in, and be, to get that energy back and that more positivity. So yeah, I think it's really important. And I think there's a whole generation of people that really want you to be considerate and thinking about that. And I think that lockdown has really been a chance for companies to reset their priorities. Who are we as a company? What do we stand for? And I think it's been a good time for leaders to be kind and be understanding and be really communicative and really speaking to people and talking to them about how they are, how their families are, and making adjustments so they can be really productive in their work but also be really happy. I like working from home and I like flexible working, but I do think that it's important to have an office so if people want to come in, they can. If you've got a sort of call centre job and you're working from home and you don't have a separate room or quiet that you can work in, that must be really difficult. And some people like to change up their atmosphere. You come into the office, for example, it's air conditioned, it's a good atmosphere, it's a break from your house. You get an opportunity to get out your pajamas and get into normal clothes. But I also think that if you can work from home, you should, but you should be able to manage that balance yourself. I'm not someone who will force people to come into work when they don't need to. I think there was a time, particularly before lockdown, where if people said they were working from home, everyone went, oh yeah, that's sort of the equivalent of skiving. But now we know that's not true at all. People can be really productive, and they are really productive, and they like working from home. They like the lack of travelling into the office. They save money on travel, on lunch, and all of those kind of other things. And they tend to have a much more relaxed attitude to what they're doing. But equally, it's important to come in, to see other people, to be talking, to be engaged, to have, understand where the company's going, what the company's done during lockdown. Those things are important. So I think it's a balance, and I think it's down to the individual as well. I think it must be very difficult if you're a young person who started out, or you're an apprentice. You meet a lot of your friends and your social life happens at work, and that connection and drinks on a Friday night and going out for lunches and all of those other things. If you don't have that, so you've started a job and you're working from home, building those relationships, learning on the job, watching how other people do things, being in presentations, I think that's a real downside to working at home if you're a young person starting out. I definitely think it's a trend that's here to stay. I think that all the reservations employers had about people working from home have all disappeared. People are productive, they're happy, they're working hard. And I think that it's really based on trust. If you trust people and they're doing their job, it should be up to them how flexible you want them to be. There's no ball and chain that ties you to an office. If you're working well from home, that's good enough for me. I think communication is really important. Setting out your expectations, setting out what you want, telling people how you like to communicate, engaging in people in a way that is not always work-related. When lockdown first started, we set up a little Friday night group where we'd share great series we were watching on Netflix, and reporting back what we all thought about them, having quiz nights, just generally keeping in touch. Because usually when you're in the office and you're seeing people, you can have a coffee, you can stop and ask them how their family are. When you're on a Zoom call, sometimes it's so difficult to get around the room because there's so many people that people who are less confident tend to sort of drop off the edges. But bringing them back in and communicating updating, and just reaching out. How are you? And picking up the phone as opposed to always emailing. Those things I think are really important. Definitely not. That's not true, actually. I tell you a couple of things I have been doing. I do a lot of walking. I love walking. I have a dog, which really helps. So I could do 5 miles a day. It's not traditionally what's seen as sport or exercise, but for me, it really works. And I bought a bike. So I love going around on my bike. It's great cycling to meetings. People really don't expect you to pull up to a meeting in a bike, and it's quite fun. But no, in terms of weird and wacky things, definitely not. I think that's perhaps for a younger generation.